My name is Monk Rowe, and we're interviewing for the Hamilton College Jazz Archive at Hamilton College. I'm very pleased to have Fred Staton, saxophonist, as my guest.
It's my pleasure.
You guys put on a great performance this afternoon with the Harlem Blues and Jazz Band. You mostly do like head arrangements with the group?
Yeah, head arrangements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how long have you been with them? About
I guess 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been playing for a long time. You're 93.
Right.
And you've seen a lot of change in this country, I would imagine.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you can tell me, when you were a child, was there a certain kind of music that made an impression on you, and where did you hear it?
Well, as a child growing up, we had one of those hand-winding Victrolas, and the most music that we had at that time were blues and what we call now gospel, gospel music. So I didn't hear much jazz because we didn't have it in the house. I actually didn't get exposed to jazz until probably in my teen years.
Was there any discrepancy between, you said you had blues and gospel,
Yes.
in your house.
Right.
So, like, your parents or your mother didn't think that blues was like nasty music?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No. As a matter of fact, my mother was a self-taught pianist herself. She played a little piano. And my father tried to play a little piano. We had a, what do you call player piano, kind that you pump, and you have the
piano rolls.
Piano rolls.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can remember. Now, in retrospect, now that I think of it, yeah, we did have one tune that I can remember very vividly. Way down yonder in New Orleans. Yeah. And I just get a great kick out of just pumping that player piano and singing along with because the words are right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I take that back. I was exposed to some jazz a little before teens. Yeah.
Was having a player piano in your house a big deal in the neighborhood, or not?
Yes, yeah, because everyone didn't have everyone didn't have player pianos. That was a big deal. Yeah, that was quite a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about radio? What role did radio play in your
well, we didn't have radio.
Okay.
No, we didn't have radio. I can't remember when the first radio we got. It had to be probably in the 20s. Yeah, probably 1926, somewhere around in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you went to the Pittsburgh public schools?
Yeah.
Were those segregated schools back then?
There were, but it was just an accepted thing. We didn't. It didn't bother. As a matter of fact, the neighborhood that I grew up in was predominantly Polish, Lithuanian, and Slavish. There were only 3 colored families at that time. That's what we were colored at that time.
Yeah.
There were only 3 colored families in the neighborhood. So there was segregation, but it was so subtle that we hardly noticed. We just accepted it for whatever it was. For example, if you went to the theater, there were sections where that were set aside for coloreds, and sometimes we would sit there. But by being in a predominantly white neighborhood, we wouldn't always sit in those sections because we're kids. We're all playing together, you know. So we go to the movies, we sit together, and there was, as I recall, there was no hassle. There was no hassle during those times. Yeah.
This would have been mid-20s.
Mid-20s. Yeah.
Can you remember any of the movies you saw?
Buck Jones.
Yeah, okay.
Tom Mix.
And what did it cost to get into the movies back then?
Oh gosh, I don't remember. Probably, I don't remember. It was very little.
Yeah.
Very little.
But it probably didn't seem like a little at the time, you know.
No.
What did your father do for a living?
He was a mill worker. Worked in the mill, foundry.
And you ended up doing something like that.
Yeah, I wound up in the mill myself. I did when I graduated from high school. I went into the mill for a while, and let's see, when was that? That was no, I didn't. I graduated in 1933, and I went into like house cleaning type of work, and also I worked for a haberdashery, a porter. I'd work during the week, and then on Saturdays they would let me dress up and work as a clerk.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the
haberdashery.
That's like a tailor, right?
No. This is a men's clothing store.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Men's clothing store.
Okay.
That's what it was.
And meanwhile, you were playing the saxophone by this time?
We started out. I started out as a in the church, of course, as a gospel singer. I was the lead singer, and the fellow who was sponsoring us decided that we should have instruments. Maybe we should have an orchestra. So he interceded us for us to get instruments. And somehow or other, I don't know how the heck he managed it, right in the middle of the Depression with no money or anything, but somehow he managed to get us instruments. And my first instrument was drums. And we played in a church. We had what do you call it? Just one instructor who just instructed us all. There was no individual instruction. So we did that for quite a while, a few months. And meanwhile, I was doing this other stuff, you know, the porter work and whatever else I could get on the side to make things go. And then there was a group came through town, a carnival came through town, and they had a minstrel show, and they needed a band to play this, to go with this carnival. And that was even before I graduated from high school, as a matter of fact. That was 1932. So I left home with them.
Left home with a minstrel band.
Minstrel band. That was probably the toughest times I've ever had in my life. It was tough, really tough. You go and it was just, we traveled through Pennsylvania, that's all. And I'm trying to think now how long it was. It wasn't very long, probably about 6 weeks, the most. We went first, I remember the first stop was Blairsville, then we went to Connellsville, Ford City, and that's all that's coming to mind right now.
Was like in a tent type affair?
Tent.
And what kind of?
The show was a minstrel show, and we had a blackface comedian, and we had dancers. That is regular line dancers, and then we had a what we called then exotic dancer. And that didn't. The show just didn't go. It didn't go. So I left that, came on back home, hungry.
Yeah. Barely making enough to eat, huh?
There were times when we didn't have it.
Yeah.
There were really times when we didn't have it. Yeah.
Was the blackface comedian? He was a black person.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they did the coal. What they did, a cork or something.
Cork.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as I recall, the show was called the Pork Chops Review. I met a fellow in Denmark last year, as a matter of fact, and he sent me some pictures of two of the guys that I played with at that time, because they went on to. They came to New York from Pittsburgh and went on and became quite good at playing. The Humphrey brothers. And this fella had pictures of them.
Wow.
And I was just so glad to get them, because all those years I'd never
didn't have anything from that time.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Wow, that's paying some dues.
Yeah. Yes.
Now you mentioned the middle of the Depression. At the time of the Depression, were you aware that this is a depression? I mean, some people say that while you're living through it, for some people it wasn't that much different. But was it a particularly hard time for your family and for you?
At the time, no, we didn't. No, it's just something that we adjusted to. It's just something that we realized that, well, this is the case, and this is what we will we'll adjust to what we have to do. No, it wasn't.
Okay. And do you remember where you were when Pearl Harbor happened?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I was on was it Welding Avenue? No, Center Avenue. Going to the Roosevelt Theater. The Roosevelt Theater is right on Center Avenue, and I never did get to the show because the news came over. Come over there and blasted,
Mostly over the radio.
Yeah.
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 And then the newspaper the next day or something. Yeah. And did you assume you were of age that you could have gone in the service?
Yes.
And you thought you might get drafted?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I thought I would, but at that time I had four kids, and I was even though I was still playing music a little bit, was I in the mill then? I'm trying to.
Something I read said you were welding.
Yeah, I'm getting to that.
Yeah, okay.
No, I hadn't. I think I was still in the foundry then. Later on, that was 41. So now you're talking about 40, couple of years after, during the time before. I thought I wanted to get out of the mill because there was no, I couldn't see an advancement there. So then I went to Welding School, and I got to be pretty good welder. Matter of fact, I was first class welder. And we worked on LSDs, landing ships, those kinds that
right.
the back drop out and the
troops come out.
Yeah. We made those, and I worked on I was good enough that I could work on the outside seams, and later on we did a few destroyer escorts. So then I got good enough to use
Talking about the acetylene torch or something?
No.
like that?
No. It's another type of weld for the gun mounts. I'll think of it.
Okay. But that job was important to the war effort.
That was essential.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I thought maybe that I would enlist. I really did. I thought maybe I would enlist, and I wanted to be a Marine. So I went to the Marines, went through all the examinations, and then when they found out that I had this exemption, so we can't take you.
No. How did your wife feel about you wanting to enlist at that time?
Well, it wasn't. I didn't have that kind of relationship, so it didn't matter.
Okay. Right. Meanwhile, who were you? You're starting to play the saxophone.
Yeah.
By this time.
Yeah.
Who were the people that you were able to hear, and were they influences on you?
All right. That time you had Fletcher Henderson, and of course Duke. Count hadn't really come onto the scene at that time much. We heard a lot of Fats Waller from the where he was broadcasting from Cincinnati, I think. Heard a lot of Fats Waller. And of course Coleman Hawkins, Ben Webster, unfortunately, I did get a chance to meet Ben.
Did you?
Yeah, I did get a chance.
What was he like?
Nice guy, really nice guy. He drank a little bit too much
Mhm.
and smoked too much,
Mm.
but nice guy. He would. He was just open-minded. Open-minded. There were times when he would, like, if he would write out a solo for you. I mean, he was that type of person. You want me to write a solo? Yeah, write a solo.
Neat.
Yeah.
Would he come through town like as just a soloist, or did he have a band, or did you hear him with Duke?
I heard him with Duke,
Mm-hmm.
mostly with Duke, and then later on, I did hear him with combos. But the biggest impression I have, the thoughts I have for him are those small combo numbers that he did.
Mm-hmm.
Like even with Lester, those small combos that they did, where they could just let it all hang out,
Yeah.
just be me,
Uh-huh.
you know.
Not tied to an arrangement,
No,
so to speak.
no,
Yeah.
no.
Well, when you were playing today, I heard Ben Webster. You had such a nice, velvety, beautiful tone.
Yeah, thanks.
And I was almost surprised to see you have a metal mouthpiece. And a lot of times those things don't sound that mellow.
Well, that mouthpiece is that's an auto link,
Mm-hmm.
and it's probably, oh gosh, that's probably about 75 years old.
Wow.
It's old. It's old because yeah, it's old.
Mm-hmm.
It's old.
When was the best period for you of actually music making, being a musician? Was there a period of years that things were really good in that department?
No, I think my best years have been the past 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
because prior to that I couldn't devote all of my energies to it.
Right.
So in the past 10 years I've been able to devote a lot of my time and energies to it. So I've enjoyed it more now than I did then. I enjoyed it before, but I had to like divide my time and energies. But after I retired from work, yeah, I can honestly say that it's been the past 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when did you move from Pittsburgh?
Permanently in 1952.
Mm-hmm.
I had been away from there, traveled different places, but I moved to New York in 1952, and that's where I've been ever since.
Now, in 52, Charlie Parker and Dizzy, that was sort of, even a little before that, sort of bebop was becoming more predominant, and I'm wondering if it made an impression on you.
Strange enough, it didn't.
Uh-huh.
No. I've always stuck to the old masters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I admired them. Admired them for what they did. The improvising of chord structures, things of that sort. I admired it, but I didn't have a particular inner feel for it myself. I could listen to it and enjoy it, but I didn't have a particular desire to do it myself.
Yeah. And did you have a big band experience yourself?
Yeah, we during the war we had a band, and we played prom dances on weekends, Fridays and Saturdays. Most every Friday and Saturday. Every Friday and Saturday we would have a gig, and then of course, by me working in the shipyard, there were times when I would maybe play the gig and then do a half a shift in the shipyard.
No break in between. You went from the gig to work?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That could get dangerous if you fall asleep on the job in the shipyard.
No.
Can you recall what you might have made, how much money you would have made on a weekend gig like that?
I don't know.
Like, if you had a big band,
Yeah.
how much money would each guy have made for one
During
gig?
those times?
Yeah.
Probably $20 or what. Yeah. And that would have been pretty good money at that time, during those times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you paying in rent at the time? Do you recall?
No. Probably about $40.
$40 a month?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't recall exactly, but probably
Yeah.
around.
Okay.
Around that, yeah.
And have you always kept close to gospel music? Has this always been a part of
Yes.
what you do?
Yeah.
In fact, you still do some of that now, don't
I
you?
do. I have a gospel group now.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, we just did a gospel concert in Newport News, Virginia. This what's today? This is 3 weeks ago, and what we did. We took Joey along, and he participated. Did very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, very well.
I've always been curious as to the level of spontaneity in a gospel group. Sometimes you see a conductor bringing things in and out. How much of it is rehearsed, and how much of it is sort of just spontaneous?
The easiest way I can explain that is it's spiritual.
Okay.
That's all. It's spiritual. It's a feel that they have, a spiritual feeling that they have. Sometimes it's spontaneous, sometimes it is rehearsed. But for the most part, it's spiritual.
Are there people writing new gospel music?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you guys do some of what was it, Thomas Dorsey?
Yeah.
That did some
Thomas
of the
Dorsey.
early.
Yeah.
Is that still in your repertoire? Some
Still.
of it? Yeah.
Yes. Oh yes. Yeah. Definitely.
Wow. And what is your role in this group?
Well, I do now, since I'm older, I just do the background vocals, and then occasionally I'll do I'll do the first chorus, like a number like Walk Alone. I'll play the first chorus, and then the solos will come in and and sing up to a point, and then we'll all join in, probably somewhere during the course of that of the tune.
I see. Do you have a church you go to now where they the gospel, obviously?
Yeah. We just did one last Saturday, as a matter of fact. It's called the Baptist House of Prayer. They had us, a choir, and 4 different soloists. In that setting, it's a tour group. That brings in tour groups from France and Germany and different places like that.
I see.
And they, excuse me, they bring them to these churches, and they have us different ones come in to perform. It just so happens that we were there for this one last week.
Do those tour groups, do they sort of get into it emotionally?
Yeah, they do. They don't necessarily don't know the language,
right?
But they get caught up in the spirit and the emotion. They do. And well, we as a group we play to them. We have the tambourines and the hand clapping and all, and they just pick it up from us.
I love the piano playing in gospel music. I wish I could figure it out.
This piano player that we have today, this man is. You should hear him play gospel. Ooh. He plays everything, but especially gospel. Very, very good. Excellent.
Do you think it's necessary to grow up with it to play it well?
No.
You can just learn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual thing, and anyone can pick it up. As you go along. You either do or you don't.
You were, let's see, in 1965 or so. You were around 50. I think it was a couple days ago that it was 40 years ago since when Martin Luther King was assassinated.
Yeah.
And I remember I was wondering at the time, how much of an impact, did that have any impact in your daily life, that incident or that particular time, the civil rights era?
It was sad, and we were angry. I was angry, as most of us were, and then it's a question of why him, because he was making such a great impact so far as the racial thing was going. The whole thing, not only racial, but just civil rights, period. Well, after the anger passed, then of course you just said, well, we have to move on. But in the initial impact was anger, I think we all had that.
Right.
Yeah.
If we leap to today,
Yeah.
what's your opinion of the issues of racism in today's society?
Oh, we made great strides.
Uh-huh.
Great strides. It still exists. I mean, we can't just completely deny it. It still exists, but we made great strides.
Mm-hmm.
So I just take the position of be thankful for what you have and try your best to get more.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
It's a nice philosophy. Let's talk about Dakota for a minute. Was she, did she show like talent from a young age?
Yes.
Yeah.
Dakota used to entertain the neighbors. She would just go around different neighbors and sing for them. And she did that, I guess, probably about 8 years, 7 or 8 years old.
No.
And well, I was, as I said before, I was playing with bands from time to time. And I even took her, brought her on one of our gigs. And she sang
really?
with us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember now exactly how old. She's probably about 9 years old. Yeah, she's from a very,
Mm-hmm.
very young.
And did your parents encourage that talent in her? Like this maybe could be her thing, like could be a career for her eventually.
Well, I have to reveal something about that. The family was not a firm family structure, so
Mhm.
I'll just let it go.
Okay.
Go with that.
All right.
Yeah.
Sure. When you were playing gigs with a band at that time, it was for dancing, right?
Yeah.
People danced. They didn't really sit and listen.
No, dance.
Just dance.
Dance.
What kind of dances were they doing?
Lindy Hop.
Lindy Hop.
Yeah.
Things like we see pictures of them at the
Yeah.
Savoy Ballroom and
Yeah, yeah.
That kind of
that
stuff.
type. Yeah, that
yeah.
type. Not the this throwing up and all that stuff
Uh-huh.
that's from the Savoy, but that type, that type.
Right.
Swing dancing. I'll put
Okay.
it that way.
I've seen some neat some of the video from back then, like with the Count Basie Orchestra and
At the Savoy?
yeah, and they'd have these funny things with. They were almost like just little storylines. Jimmy Rushing, being on the dance floor, and he's the last one standing or something.
Yeah.
Were those things used in the movie houses?
What do you mean?
It seemed like they were just short pieces of some of the swing bands playing, and I wondered where would you see them back in the 30s and 40s?
Listen. You wouldn't see them. They weren't there. No.
So if you went to the movies,
You wouldn't see them.
no?
No.
I don't know what they used them for. I guess some of them were on what they called the kinescopes or something. Like they had a jukebox that you actually could
Oh, yeah.
see a little video.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah. That, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But for the movies, no. No.
And in your record collection, did you buy 78s?
Yeah.
Who would be people you would buy?
Oh, the people that I liked during the time. I mean, Ellington and Fletcher Henderson and
Mm-hmm.
Louis had a band. Louis Armstrong had a band at the time. Noble Sissel.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Jimmy Lunsford, perhaps?
Jimmy Lunsford. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't forget him. Louis Russell. Benny Carter. And then, of course, the combos.
Mm-hmm.
Fats Waller, John Kirby.
Did you get into what Louis Jordan was starting
Louis
to
Jordan,
do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess that was the late 40s,
Yeah.
early 50s.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the most modern music that you like right now? Or I still have to use the word modern.
Yeah. It's hard to just pinpoint because I like all music.
Mm-hmm.
I can listen to it all.
Okay.
Yeah. It all depends on what mood I'm in at that particular time.
Mm-hmm.
I can put on. I can listen to Ben for hours, maybe, you know, and then I can listen to Coleman Hawkins and Lester Young. So it all depends on the mood.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Lester was great, huh?
Yeah.
There was a story. It made me wonder if this was your case. Something about he was a drummer first.
Yeah.
But he
was.
got tired of all the guys leaving with the girls, and he's still packing up the drums. So he switched.
My case.
Was that your case? So you switched to the saxophone.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, everybody is gone, and I'm still packing up these doggone drums. So what the heck with this? So, and it just so happens, this man had bought us a whole slew of instruments, saxophones, trombones, and trumpets and clarinets, and the saxophone was just still sitting there. And I said, okay, I'm going for this. That's how it happened.
Cool. Was it a tenor?
Yeah, it was a Bushy tenor,
Sure.
silver Bushy tenor.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And you've been a tenor player most of your life then?
Yeah, I have altos and sopranos now, but I stick to the tenor.
Right.
Yeah.
Heck with the drums.
That was funny. Yeah. It wasn't so much the fact that the girls were gone, but it was just the fact that everyone had gone. Everyone's left. I'm still there. And then you had to get transportation. You know, and that wasn't always available. So sometimes I'd be walking through the streets with them.
Oh, with the drum set.
With the drum set. So no.
This is let somebody else do this part.
Yeah.
So, getting back to Dakota, you went to overseas with her.
Yeah.
In the 70s.
77.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Oh, that was delightful. We, as a matter of fact, I have a recording that we did. We did a TV show in one small town in Sweden. I still have it. It was a nice tour.
Mm-hmm.
Nice tour.
How did she feel about her career? Was she happy with, the way it went?
Well, Dakota had emotional problems
Hmm.
all through her life, so it was up and down.
Okay.
It was hard to. There were times when she was up and times when she was
Mhm.
down.
Yeah. It's a tough business, no matter
Yeah.
no matter what.
Yeah.
If you had a grandson, and
I do have several.
you had several, if they asked you about going into music as a career, what would your advice be?
I would encourage it.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah. Do what you feel comfortable with. If you feel comfortable with it, do it. But if you don't feel comfortable, no, don't force yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do your grandkids do?
None of them are music.
Uh-huh.
No.
Yeah.
My one grandson's in the educational. He's a teacher in the school, in the public
Mhm.
school. And I have four. Is it four? Yeah. I always have to figure out. 4 great-grandchildren. None
Wow.
of them are interested in. None of them. No.
Hmm.
They've come to see me perform from time to time, and they enjoy. But,
Yeah.
they're not interested.
I see.
So far.
Yeah. What was for you, like, the highlight of your musical endeavors? Has it been the last 10 years, as you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was always a struggle before.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is there a part of things have changed an awful lot technologically?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've gone from seeing when your house didn't have a radio
Yeah.
to 78 recordings.
Yeah.
Is there a part of technology these days that you like or that you take advantage of?
No, there are parts that I wish I did, but my kids tell me that I need to join the 21st century. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. And I can't put my finger on it why I don't do it. Because I'm not a lazy person. I do stay fairly busy, but I don't have the energies.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't have.
Like with a computer or something
I
like
don't
that.
have the energies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a CD player?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You still have records?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like records.
Yeah.
I like to read the backs of them, you know. And
Yeah.
yeah.
As a matter of fact, I still have the turntable, but as I speak, I'm going to have to get it fixed because there's something that's not working right.
I see.
I got as a matter of fact, Volmer gave me a LP, a gospel LP with a couple of the numbers that we do now.
I see.
So hopefully I can get it fixed so I can listen to it. Because we do most of the old type of gospel,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to the new bouncy stuff that you hear.
Ah.
Yeah.
Did you have a opportunity to record yourself as a saxophonist over the years?
No.
Okay, but you're on some CDs now with
Yeah.
the Harlem Blues and Jazz Band.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's Dr. Vollmer like as a manager?
He's quite a guy.
Yeah.
Nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quite a nice guy.
Takes a lot of effort to do
Yeah.
what he's doing.
Mhm.
He probably sat in this room
Oh,
years
yeah?
and years ago.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, most likely. Yeah. And you guys are going to New Orleans soon.
Yeah, New Orleans, and that's the 25th of this month, as a matter of fact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we're slated to go to Sweden, Denmark, and Russia.
Wow.
Yeah. It's set up, so hopefully I can make it.
Yeah. Do you have a prediction about who will be our next president?
No, don't have a clue.
Isn't it something, huh?
I don't know. I don't
Do you have a
clue.
favorite?
I did, but now it's oh, I'm on the fence.
Hmm.
Yeah, really.
Really?
Yeah. And of course, the reasons are I'm just so afraid. The country is so corrupt. You know, a person gets up so high and boom, you shoot them down. You know.
Not too hopeful.
No.
Yeah. Well, it's been really a pleasure talking with you. And is
Yeah,
there anything that you'd like to add that I haven't asked you?
No, I don't think. I'll probably think of some things tonight when I'm in bed.
Yeah.
But at the moment, no.
Okay. I did think of something just now. I was wondering, what was your impression of sort of the rock and roll revolution, Chuck Berry and Elvis and that whole thing? Did it make an impression on you at the time?
No, it didn't make an impact on me at all. Because I'm just jazz oriented.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it, but I only take so much of it. Then I'm going to go back to
Okay.
to my comfort zone.
Uh-huh. Would you get in situations where people would want you to play rhythm and blues, you know, or Night Train, or that kind of thing?
Would I get into?
Yeah, were you in band situations where?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, you do that. You
yeah.
do what the audience wanted.
Oh yeah,
pretty much.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This is always a hard question, but I'll try it anyway.
Okay.
Can you remember one of the worst gigs you ever played, or one of the best gigs you ever played?
Huh. No, I can't come to think of it. Because there's been some good, there's been some bad, but I can't.
Yeah.
I can't cue in on them. You know, that was it. You know.
Right. Right.
I'll probably think of it later, as I said before, but I can't
Yeah.
at the moment. No.
Okay.
No.
Well, it's been a real pleasure again talking to you, and I hope tomorrow we'll be meeting some students up here,
Okay.
and I'll hope you share some of your reminiscing with them also.
Okay.
All right?
I'm glad to.
Great. Thanks for your time today.
My pleasure. Yeah. I hope I've given you some morsels.
You certainly did.
Okay.